Welcome in to Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. Let's remove the dark cloud of money and injuries when it comes to Joel Embiid and Paul George and focus on something I'm going to term, Keith, the bright side with the 76ers and why Sixers fans should be excited about the young guys on this roster. All that and more on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in once again to Locked On 76ers, and we thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This particular episode brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Keith, we touched on this a little bit yesterday, and that is the young guys on this team, whether or not Sixers fans should be excited about it. I think they should be excited about what the young guys are doing, but we touched on the workouts led by Tyrese Maxey in Camden with the young members of the 76ers. We talked about a little bit, and it was also a report by Ramona Shelbourne on ESPN, I think it was late last week, about kind of the young guys running those workouts. And we've certainly covered at length Joel Embiid's injury, Paul George's injury, Paul George getting surgery in the offseason, how good this Sixers team could be in the upcoming season. And this really got the wheels turning. And when you mentioned the workouts last week with Maxey and I think McCain and Edgecombe, it made me think about, well, for a young team, if Joel Embiid and Paul George weren't a part of this, like if you didn't have the injuries, if you certainly didn't have the money attached to it, and let's just change time for a second here, and let's just say this was something coming out of the process, directly out of the process, I'd be really excited about what Tyrese Maxey can do. I'd be really excited about what Jared McCain can do and what he's shown at the NBA level already. I'd be really excited to see the NBA debut of V.J. Edgecombe in the upcoming season. I would be very excited about this young up-and-coming team in sort of a parallel universe, Keith, where there is no Embiid or Paul George and that doom and gloom cloud lingering over this young core. Do you think with what they have at a young age with some of these guys, Sixers fans would be excited in that parallel universe?
Oh, I definitely do. I think they would be. But also, I think the most intriguing thing to the 76ers fans that will make them most excited is the fact that, let's just say this season, just this one season, they would have $106.8 million available, right? I mean, seriously. So when you look at that and you say it, you look at them and you say, you know what? We could go through this season, have these guys play, take their lumps, and then, we can build on what we need to get in free agency. We can inquire and we could get, contracts. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the one thing that's big for me is $106.8 million that they would have available in cap space. So
good Lord.
Yeah, because if we look at this team right now, when we look at it, we got to go back and you look at it to Joel Embiid in the early days of the process, right? So you had Ben Simmons, you had Joel Embiid. Were they better players? Was that a better tandem? You can argue that it was, right? But they also had guys they missed on, like Nerlens Noel, a couple other guys. But the difference, I think, right now is when you look at the leadership that's going on with this young group, the guys were in LA last week. They spent, 3 to 4 days out there working out, doing the Rico Hines runs. Afterwards, you see video footage of those guys, on the roller coaster, like having all types of fun, doing everything, right? We got the 6 a.m. workouts going on. And, who's out there in the workouts with them? Kyle Lowry, a 20-year veteran, right? So you have that leadership. So when we look at this team, it's going to take some lumps. They're probably going to be a team that may not make the playoffs, talking about with those three. But at the same time, there's something to look forward to because of all the available cap space. And I think that when I look at Maxey's maturation, I look at Jared McCain's, his likability, his maturity as well. V.J. Edgecombe, another extremely likable guy. The city would fall behind these guys. I mean, they really would. They would really fall behind them. But again, not to sound like a broken record, but 106.8, and it's only going to go up the next couple years. So you know that this team would be able to go out there and get a piece to go with these guys that immediately turns them into a contender.
It really is a wild thing because you talk about likability with Jared McCain. I mean, I think Jared McCain certainly has the talent and likability. I think Tyrese Maxey obviously has the talent and the likability. And so far, what we know about V.J. Edgecombe as your third overall pick is this guy, even if he's not great now, he's got the work ethic to be great, to be an impactful player, even in his rookie season. So there's three guys right there. And then that doesn't even include a 24-year-old Trendon Watford, who's just here now with the Sixers. And we'll talk about what his role could be with this team based on his relationship with Tyrese Maxey and what Tyrese Maxey said during Summer League. And then you also look at somebody young, 25 years old, and Quentin Grimes, if you're able to re-sign him, which everything is pointing in that direction or heading in that direction, it seems like. And then you even look at Adem Bona, who you just talk about an athletic center. But I'm not saying he's Joel Embiid or could be prime Joel Embiid or anything like that. He's a different role. He's a different type of player. Obviously not as good, but more towards where the NBA has trended in terms of those more athletic centers that could run the floor with you stride for stride, explode under the basket and all that. He's got that going for him. But when you talk about a core three, I think the likability and the talent of these three very coachable players right now, unfortunately, is being ruined by what's hanging over their heads. And that's the money that is not available, unfortunately. $106.8 million, as you mentioned, not available. And also the length of the deal that you're talking about with Joel Embiid and still the money on the table with Paul George. So not only are they held back in that regard, but it's also like these three young guys have to wait and see, just like Sixers fans have to see what they're even going to get from a Joel Embiid or Paul George this year. So it almost feels like, any excitement you might have about the young guys is tainted because you're not even sure the role they're going to have with Paul George and Joel Embiid eventually, whenever it is that they're healthy. And even when they're healthy, how long is that health going to last? It feels like they're held back in a way because of the situation they're in.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, it does appear to be that way. And when you look at it, we're talking about this year, the 106.8, right? But then when you talk about next summer, where the free agency is going to go, and that money goes up to 112. So if you look at the 76ers, you could say, all right, well, let's swing for the fences, right? It looks like right now Kevin Durant and the Houston Rockets haven't decided what they're going to do. And I know there's some people might say Kevin Durant is old, but you can have enough money to make a push for him. And where we're talking about a guy where, you could say, hey, do you just want 2 years or something like that? We could give you the max or whatever. If you do that, then all of a sudden this team becomes a championship contender. I mean, because no offense to Paul George, but I would rather have Kevin Durant over Paul George, and no offense to Joel Embiid, but how many games is he going to play? You know what I mean? So
I'm with you.
There's a lot of guys like that's going to come out in this free agency, like Dyson Daniels, like he's going to be a restricted. I believe that Atlanta is going to re-sign him, but at the same time, he's a guy that if you throw a lot of money at him, you have it available. Are they going to be able to match him? Because he's a guy that you look at it and you say, a great defender for the Atlanta Hawks. He's a guy who fits in, a guy who gets it. He can, another one that you can use, if you let Kelly Oubre walk, then you can look at Dyson Daniels as a younger upgrade, So there's a lot of different avenues that they could go after. But I don't know. It's really intriguing. And let's face it, right now with Joel Embiid and Paul George, like if they're healthy, you're basically looking for the win now approach. But even if they're healthy, how far are they going to go in the playoffs? And do you trust that they're going to stay healthy for the rest of the season? You know what I mean? So, to me, is a lot of question marks with that. But I'm telling you, this is good. And guess what else the Sixers could do? They could use that cap space to basically acquire players that other teams don't want. But what you say, you could do what Oklahoma City Thunder did. Hey, we'll take on this expiring contract, but you got to give us a couple draft picks with it. And then all of a sudden, the Sixers will be a major player controlling the market, so to speak, in the drafts over the next couple of years because of all these assets they have, and it will enable them to go out there and use some of those picks on top-notch players, or to use those picks in trades to get back, quality players. So they would have a lot of options, man, a lot of options.
You sound like the Sixers should bring back. What if they replace Daryl Morey with Sam Hinkie, and then they go back to buying those or getting those expiring contracts just to get to the cap floor, and then they take a couple of picks along with it? That's not a bad idea. Make some processors happy from back in the day. Of course,
I know. Wouldn't that be crazy? He came back and he's like, "Let me finish the job that I."
Let's do this again. Exactly. Yeah. Let's do this again. And that is also interesting too, because it makes you think about a couple of things. One, for the future with Kelly Oubre, it's like, almost as you mentioned Kelly Oubre, it's like, man, should they be thinking about Kelly Oubre more as an extension, more so than Quentin Grimes, and bringing him back and just letting Quentin Grimes walk? It also makes you think about potentially having the money available down the line for Joel Embiid, because I know I always forget this. The money for Joel Embiid, it starts next year, right? The extension starts next year.
It starts next year. Yeah.
Next year. So this would be a contract season then for Joel Embiid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Barring the idea of Joel Embiid holding out or anything, I doubt, but because it's not the NFL, obviously, but it would only motivate Joel Embiid then to have that extension out there in front of him if he still hadn't signed it yet. So this year, I mean, now, of all the things I've mentioned so far and all the things we've discussed, Keith, what I am saying right now is the biggest fantasy. Let me just get that out of the way and acknowledge it. But it would put him in a position where, he's in his final year of his contract. What are they? They're going to trade him? But even if is that going to be motivating for him to actually play this year, push himself a little bit more? But then we'd be looking basically over the edge of the cliff and saying, what's life going to be like after the Joel Embiid era here in Philadelphia? Which then would bring me back to the original question, the hypothetical I'm rolling out here. Is if you didn't have Embiid, you didn't have Paul George, how excited would you be, even just this year and next, about how far and how tall this core of Maxey, McCain, and Edgecombe could grow in the upcoming season, and what it could mean for years to come?
Yeah, I mean, it would be extremely exciting because there's a lot of avenues that they could explore. I mean, let's just go over their contracts real quick, right? So starting next season, 2026-27, Joel Embiid he's going to make $57.9 million next season. Not this season, next season. The season after that, he's going to make $62.5 million. And then his final year of the deal is the 2028-29, and he's going to make $67.1. So then we go to Paul George, right? So Paul George is going to make $54.1 million next season. And then the final year of his deal is he's going to make $56.5 million. That's going to be the 2027-28. So right then and there, like, what you can do is, now we also know that during this time, and the Sixers do have their bird rights, but it could be a little bit similar to like the OKC thing, where there's going to be a couple seasons before V.J. Edgecombe gets paid, right? Make a second contract, and the same thing for Jared McCain. But what you could do is guys like Justin Edwards, players of that caliber, what you could do is you can give them a respectable contract, kind of sort of like what Oklahoma City did to their role players. You gave them respectable contracts. You still, you weren't in the luxury tax. They were satisfied with that. And then in a couple years from there, that's when you can pay V.J. Edgecombe, Jared McCain if he blows up. And one of those guys that I would give a respectable contract to, like in the 10 million range or whatever, 15 million, whatever. It could be like, depending on how they play, like maybe a Dembona, you know what I mean? Something like that, a guy to keep them happy. But they would have a lot of flexibility to move forward. And the crazy thing about it is, when we look at Maxey, he's always smiling. He seems like he has friends on a lot of other teams. Free agents would love to come and play alongside him, right? So that would be an attractive thing too. But at the same time, like I said earlier, you can get these bad expiring contracts and stockpile all these draft picks, and then you can build that way. But you have to make sure, because they tried that before now, you have to make sure that you draft the right players this time. But they have a lot of options. A lot.
Oh, that chestnut, that little chestnut they have to crack. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The other thing, and it's a great point, and it's worth reiterating. It's not just about having the money. Like people listening might be thinking, of course you have money, you can sign anybody, that kind of thing. But it's one thing to have money. It's another thing to have a player here that people want to play with. Now we've talked about it in the past with Joel Embiid. Maxey's a guy people want to play with. And the other thing that I'll throw in, it's like if you come in with Joel Embiid, there's no doubt that you're going to be the number 2. With Tyrese Maxey, he's a versatile enough player where he's shown that he could already get along with Joel Embiid. And I mean get along like on the court, not personally, like he could play with him. So that might be an incentive for anybody else that would come here and be like, oh, I know I could still be the guy, and Maxey will have his moments of being the guy, but I'll still be the number 1 guy. Like that's another attractive thing. He's a versatile player who's also selfless. So I love that. And yes, the money would also help. But I want to get a comment or two on there because I do want to ask the question about this to the fans. And the question essentially, the hypothetical, if you didn't have Joel Embiid and the contract and the injuries and Paul George with the contract and the injuries, if that wasn't looming over this season, would you be excited about the young core up and coming with Tyrese Maxey, V.J. Edgecombe, and Jared McCain, and maybe some other guys on this team? Richard is answering the question right now, just saying another waste of a season for fans and season ticket holders. Teacher Got Game saying, I'm worried we are going to waste Maxey's prime. That is a concern of mine as well. Zersky, I think it is. I don't see the season as a waste. They got young talent to watch, not waste, to watch. He's saying that to correct that. They got a young star, big and develop that core. A young star, big, develop that core. I'm with you there as far as that goes. So, some people looking at it as a waste no matter what, but it is a shame because I do think this core could grow into something special here in Philadelphia, especially if they had all the flexibility that you've highlighted.
Well, here's the one thing we got to find out too. We also have to find out if Maxey can actually lead a team.
Yes.
And we talk about him being a leader, like off the court and doing stuff, but we need to find out if Maxey can be a number 1 because, right now people are saying they don't think so. Right. And the reason why his most of his success came by playing alongside Embiid. But if Embiid and Paul George wasn't here, we would get the answer to that. And then the 76ers would know what they would have to do, And the good thing about Tyrese Maxey is, there are certain guys who everybody says they want to win. They want to be winners. But, because it sounds good to say, right? No one wants to say, no, I'm a selfish SOB. I just want the ball, right? Everybody wants to be a winner. But I kind of believe him. Like I do. I believe that he's the type of guy that's like, you know what? He's kind of like that Dwayne Wade mode. Like when LeBron James came, it was kind of like everybody thought D Wade was like, yo, this is going to be my team. But he was like, no, LeBron, yo, we need to win. Like, I want to get another chip. I need you to be you and don't worry about me. And I feel like that Maxey, if it came to that, he's such of a winner and a hard worker and a leader that he would probably be the same way. And because he realizes at the end of the day, as long as we win, no one's looking to see who led the team in scoring. No one's looking at it. They're looking at, saying, hey, we won a championship and we'll always be remembered. So, but I think that it would be good to see if he could actually be a number 1. Because right now the perception is that he's a solid number 2, but not a number 1.
Yeah. The Batman and Robin analogy comes to mind with it, but you're absolutely right. And we've talked about whether or not, how far can a Tyrese Maxey led team go? And we've come up with like the best case scenario is a play-in tournament. Well, this poses the question differently. This is still working under the caveat of, well, he's an up-and-comer. He's not it yet. Jared McCain, still up and coming. V.J. Edgecombe, yet to even arrive on the scene, actually. So this is all under the idea that these guys are developing and not developed. And that's where the conversation point comes in. When we come back, I'm going to talk about somebody that is apparently close to Tyrese Maxey. Maxey ranked him as his number 2 best friend, actually. And I want to talk about Trendon Watford's role in the upcoming season. Talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Back after this. And now let me tell you about Monarch Money. Most people can't name their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investment, no matter what. It's something that a lot of people have a hard time keeping track of. Well, Monarch Money helps you track it all and give you the full picture. That's why Monarch Money is the best all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch Money does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes and see clear data visuals, get smart characterization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Music to my ears. And how about this? Monarch Money. You can use promo code LOCKEDONNBA. That's promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for a half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with promo code LOCKEDONNBA. Track your finances, prepare better spending, and also your savings with Monarch Money. Maybe you're trying to buy a car. Maybe you're trying to pay for college, whatever it might be. Monarch Money will help you through the process. Use promo code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. That's LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com. So, Keith, I'm looking at it like this. Trendon Watford is out there, and he's playing for the Nets. And you've highlighted on the show before about his facilitating ability. And then we have this little conversation during summer league where Tyrese Maxey's getting interviewed, and he's talking about, oh, well, I've wanted a Draymond Green type, right? And we also understand that the relationship between Watford and Tyrese Maxey, they're very close. They're, buds and all that. Could the Sixers really be headed to, especially, again, operating in a world where we don't know what you have in Joel Embiid, you don't know what you have in Paul George? Do you think we'd be operating in a world where Tyrese Maxey is allowing Trendon Watford, or Jared McCain is allowing Trendon Watford to really be the facilitator in a similar role to what we saw with Ben Simmons with a point forward?
You know what? I don't know if we'll see that. I think that we could see it in certain lineups, but at the same time, I honestly think that, when you have so many ball dominant guards, like guards who need the ball now, I could see, Watford getting the ball and then a guy cutting towards the basket, you know what I mean? Things like that, and he'll give it to him. But when I look at Jared McCain, he's the type of guy that he creates a lot of things with him initially handling the ball, then passing it, and then moving and getting it back. The same thing with Maxey. Now, Maxey has shown before that he can play off the ball, and you find him in space and, in the open floor, right, when he's going like 100 miles an hour. But I don't see right now, especially right now with Joel and all them, that where we see Trendon Watford as kind of sort of the point forward. I feel like that as long as they're healthy, I could see Paul George having that role, right? With his IQ and his experience and things like that. But if the season goes left or if guys are injured, I do think that you have to you have to look at that situation with Watford just to see what he can do. But again, I don't know. And I do like him. I do like Trendon Watford, but I'm not 100% sure if with all the guys that they have at this particular time, if I'm looking at him as my starting point forward, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah. No, I agree with that.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if I'm looking at that, because I just feel like you have, you know, as good as he is, he's on a minimum salary, right? They're trying to win, but you have a lot of guys that you need to make some evaluations on, like moving forward, and you want to win too. So I think that they would be above him in the pecking order, like Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, you know, guys like that. And we also know Embiid is ball dominant too as a big. So yeah, I don't know if I would do that. No, I like him though, but I don't know if I do that.
Here's what I like, and I think this is going to be the extent of it. I don't think Trendon Watford is going to be in your starting five and being the point forward and all that. To start the season, depending on where Paul George is, that'll be the number one option. Obviously, Paul George. But here's what I look forward to, and this is where I think the trend's going to go with Trendon Watford. Second team comes off the bench, obviously. Jared McCain, V.J. Edgecombe in the mix. Trendon Watford gets the rebound on the defensive end. He's pushing. He's going. He's not looking to get it to McCain. He's not looking to get it to V.J. Edgecombe. Maybe that's what they, start out doing, and then maybe they decide, all right, well, Trendon Watford can push. He can get the rebound and push. Now, that's where you could see a similarity to Ben Simmons. But, made shots, it's going to be most likely Jared McCain bringing the ball up and Trendon Watford being more of your prototypical four. But in rebounding situations, I think that's going to be a rebound and go type of situation with Trendon Watford. I think that's the most fair way to look and most likely way to look at him being a facilitator, in my opinion.
Yeah. I see that. And the good thing is a great option to have, right? It is. Sure. He can, he can move for a big. The thing is, and I'll be honest with you, I'm excited to see what he can do, because, when he played with Portland, the Portland wasn't a contender. He played with the Brooklyn Nets. They were not a contender. And I think a lot of his opportunities came from, with them tanking. It was kind of like, okay, we're resting certain players. Players aren't playing. Go out there and see what you can do. And now I think this is kind of like the first time that he's going to possibly play some meaningful games, right, in a long time. And we'll see. But, yeah, he can do that. And the thing about it is, the good part is, like you said, he's, Tyrese Maxey's second best friend, number two. His best friend is funny. His best friend is a guy who's with him. He works with Tyrese. And if you ever notice, whenever you see Tyrese doing drills, there's always a guy defending him. That's his best friend.
Oh, that's funny.
He went to high school with Tyrese. This guy is he played basketball at Oklahoma State. So that's his guy. Like they're constantly together. So, and then you always see Trendon with him too, like in these videos, because Trendon's on the floor working out. So, it's funny when Tyrese says that, but it's weird that, like, his best friend is not. Typically you get a guy who's a hang on, like, he's hanging around, like, want to be seen. Now this dude is out there sweating, being like a defensive guy in every drill that Tyrese is having, and he's out there trying against him too. So, which is great.
If it's not Quentin Grimes, then it'll be Tyrese Maxey's first best friend, his first best friend in command. All right, when we come back, we're going to take a couple more comments, and I'll ask the question I know everyone's waiting for, whether or not Quentin Grimes has been signed yet. Back after this quick stop. Oh, hey there, Keith. Is Quentin Grimes signed yet?
Let me see if I can find your answer. Nope.
Is that the wait? Hold on. What was that publication? Was that the Metro or is it the Inquirer?
So this is oh wow! Look at this. I don't know if you can see this, but it says like that. You can't really see it, but this is Jalen Brunson when he was like a freshman or sophomore at Villanova. The Inquirer did an article on him. Yeah, I didn't write it. Nah, her name was Susan Snyder, the young lady who wrote it. Okay. But yeah, it's like him when he was, a young dude talking about is among students making their grade. So it was basically talking about how smart he was. Oh, because a lot of people forget he was like, he's a bright kid, an extremely bright kid. But no, to answer your question, no, he's not. He's not.
Anything?
Jonathan, like it's the same thing. Like Jonathan Kuminga, Josh Giddey, Quentin Grimes. Quentin Grimes.
Just as a Temple guy, I got to ask. Anything in that article of Jalen Brunson about how he screwed Temple? Anyway, that's enough.
The whole deal was, right, they wanted to hire his dad as an assistant coach at Temple, and then a situation happened, and they couldn't do it. And next thing you know, he goes to the hated Villanova. Like, it was crazy.
How about that?
And he leads them to 2 national championships. I mean, he was going to come to Temple. Like, that was like one of the worst kept secrets. Like, he was going to go to to Temple.
Yes, he was. Yeah. How about that? And then he didn't. Go figure. Anyway. All right. Well, let's get Mr. Samuel's going. Trendon is going to start while Paul George rehabs. Well, I don't see it, but maybe. Would you see that happening? He's in the starting lineup?
I think I don't know, because it could possibly happen, but then you'll say, do you want to go with a 3-guard lineup and then move Kelly Oubre to the 4?
Right.
But who's going to play the 5? Because if Paul George isn't playing, I'm assuming Joel Embiid is playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I hate to say that. You know what I mean?
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, to start the season, you could see Trendon Watford. You probably see Trendon Watford in the starting 5. Because if you have Embiid and Paul George down, Oubre's already in your starting lineup. So who's your 4 and 5?
Unless you want to go with Drummond, you know what I mean? But here's my question. Now, Drummond can get out and go a little bit, but he's getting older. My question is, if you want to have a young athletic team, right? As much as I love Drummond, if I need somebody for the run up and down the floor, I think that my 5 would have to be a Dembona for that offense. Just because, he's a lob threat. He's going to play hard on the defensive end. Yeah, he's going to be a mismatch on defense, whereas I'm talking about against more towering centers. But as far as like a track meet, getting out and going with Maxey, McCain, Edgecombe, I think that maybe I would start Bona, and then let's face it. So then you have to decide: do I want to go V.J. Edgecombe? Now I don't see McCain starting. I would see the guy who would start over him would be Quentin Grimes. But then you got to ask yourself: do I want to go Kelly Oubre or Watford? That's the question.
Yeah, in that scenario, I'm going Oubre over Watford.
Yeah,
in that scenario.
Yeah,
but yeah, still, very much a possibility there.
That's a small
joy.
But here's the thing about Kelly Oubre: a lot of people don't realize it. He's like 6'8". He's 6'7", 6'8". Trendon Watford is 6'9". So when you talk about how Kelly is much more athletic than he is, then you say, what's an inch? Honestly, like, what's an inch, right? You know what I mean? I got to go with Kelly.
I agree. Jason A saying, yes, we are. And I think that has to do with just being excited about a young core. Satire R Us, great name. They need a new featured player. Embiid is a waste of time, money, and aggravation. New king has to come. Not sure how it happens. I don't blame anyone who thinks like that. I don't blame anybody who thinks like that. I get it. Teacher Got Game. Taking up. We hit that earlier, I think. Thank you very much, Teacher Got Game. B. Water. Trendon is going to. I think I hit you. That's what I did. Thank you. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are great. Keith, we covered a lot of ground today. And one was a rather optimistic take, I might say, when it comes to being excited for the core of the 3 young players in a parallel universe, in an alternate universe, I should say.
Where'd that come from? People killing us saying we're too negative or something?
No, it dawned on me when you mentioned the workouts.
Yeah.
And then we touched on it briefly yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and then I started thinking about it even more. The story came up with Ramona Shelbourne as well about, the young leadership and all that. And I was like, wait a minute. if this was a different time and the Sixers were coming up with Maxey leading the charge, McCain showing what he showed you last year, and then having the third overall pick, I'm like, damn, I would be excited if there wasn't this dark cloud, I should say green cloud of money hovering over the Sixers right now of Embiid and Paul George and the injuries as well. I'm like, I would be excited about what the Sixers would be adding to this team. Like, how does this core three get better? Even the Dembona, how does he get better? And the core four, how does this core get better? But I can't, because $106.8 million, Keith, that you mentioned to me.
Before we leave, it's what, 3 questions up from the bottom. Teacher got game. Can you bring that one up?
Yeah.
I think this is a great question. He asks, is any chance Barlow or Jabari Walker will see meaningful minutes? I do think there's a legitimate chance of that. I think that, you know, when we look at both of these guys, especially Jabari Walker, you know, he is a product of teams, NBA teams not having a lot of money, NBA teams fearful of going into the second apron. So with that being said, it's like he's a guy who had to sign a 2-way contract to make it. But he's better than a 2-way player. Like, when you look at him as a 76er, he fulfills a need. I mean, he's a 6'9" small forward. He's a legitimate role player. And I do feel like that when he was acquired, it was one of those things where he was acquired to be a rotation player, at least get an opportunity to become a rotation player. It was just a matter of them not having enough money. And if you notice, like, he gets signed, and then, you know, of course, Barlow got signed, but then about a month later, maybe a little less than a month, next thing you know, they get rid of Ricky Council IV. So they have some cap space, or they have a roster spot available to convert his contract, either one of those. And then Barlow will provide depth at the power forward position. So yeah, you know, I'm not looking at these two guys as, you know, 2-way dudes who are going to spend most of their time in the G League. I'm looking at these two guys as guys who are going to be with the 76ers, and then the Sixers are going to have to decide on who are they going to give that permanent roster spot to. So yeah, I do look at both of these guys being able to contribute for the Sixers this season.
I'm with you, brother. His name is Keith Pompey. My name is Marc Farzetta. Make sure you guys are reading Keith Pompey on Inquirer.com, and make sure you guys are following, liking, and subscribing to Locked On 76ers as well. Philly's got an off day today, so no Phillies postcast after a dominant, historic, record-setting sweep of the Seattle Mariners. But I will be back with you guys today for Locked On Eagles Squad podcast at noon on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You guys are great as per usual. We'll be back with you guys tomorrow for a Friday edition of Locked On 76ers. See you guys then.